And for too many of us, water is still not readily available. And our needed pension checks are not coming on time. While the elite few did well, the ABLP denied you the right to choose what you put in your body. Whilst we believe in vaccines, we don't believe it's the responsibility of government to control your bodies. We will bring an end to all the mandates. This election is about choice, and we believe that we are the right choice because we give you the choice.
Calling all of the youth ages 15 through 35. While money isn't everything, everything needs money. Samuel Fields Consulting Group wants to help improve your money management. Check out our free virtual YOLO Summit on Sunday, June 5th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. featuring 25 youth speakers and a virtual exhibit hall with over 20 youthpreneurs. Live smart with the right financial tools. Register today at samuelfieldsconsulting.com.
It's time to join the family at the People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. We offer savings accounts, deposits, fixed deposits, loans, among other related services. You can even become a shareholder by purchasing a minimum of 50 shares at $5 per share. Membership is super easy and convenient. Just visit our newly opened credit union building on Upper Newgate Street, Monday to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. with proof of ID and address, along with $15 to cover registration and passbook. And you'll be set and on your way. For further information, call 462-8888 or 727-2285. People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Today, tomorrow, together.
But I just feel like people don't understand me. I don't want to even give me a chance. Go to school, my hard skill. I'm a hard worker, but there's just not enough jobs out there. The economy is so bad that I'm ashamed to say that we're in the year 2022 and water hardly one near the pipe. Now them can't tell how we, in order to get a job, I must take the job. I understand the vaccine is a good thing and all that, but I just hate the fact that it's mandated. It's my body, it's my choice. I shouldn't be denied a job, education, or benefits because the choices I make for my body. For me, this time, personally, the UPP is the right choice because they are the party of choice.
Good evening and welcome again to the Captain's Corner. We do apologize for the break. This evening on the Captain's Corner, we have quite a number of issues we hope to address. And we say good evening to you, Harold Lovell, and welcome.
Well, I'm just happy to be here. I was in Cashew Hill, as I mentioned earlier, and Cashew Hill is on fire. And Jonathan is definitely the right choice for St. Mary's North and for Cashew Hill. It's been a great experience. I was very happy to be there to give my support to Jonathan.
Very good. One of the areas I'd like to touch on for Captain's Corner is your constituency, which is that of St. John City East. And there's been much talk about the infrastructural work that's going on there. We see bridges being built, waterways being cleared, dogged, whatever. And for those who don't know, might think it's a project that just started perhaps a few years ago. I would love for you to shed some light, as your focus on your constituency this evening, you shed some light as to the genesis of that project.
Oh yes, this matter really goes back a long way. This area is known as the McKinnon's watershed area, and it includes Upper Fort Road and the Yorks community. It comes all the way up from Upper Gambles, comes through Upper Fort Road, and then into Yorks. So it's an issue that has been addressed in a comprehensive kind of way. And I remember way back in my first term, this was something that I was very concerned about, and I was able to approach Diane Blacklane, who subsequently became Ambassador Diane Blacklane. She was assigned to the UN during the period when the Honorable Baldwin Spencer was Prime Minister, and he served as the chairman of the G77 and China. And so way back then, the whole question of climate change was very topical, because when Mr. Spencer was the chairman of the G77 and China, he made climate change one of the issues that he really wanted to focus on. So we were really focused on climate change as a nation. Mr. Spencer, through his chairmanship of this important international United Nations agency. I approached Ambassador Lane in terms of what could be done in the area of Upper Fort Road, because for the first 5 years of my term, we relied mainly on Public Works and the CBH, Central Board of Health, keeping the drains clean, making sure that the waterways were clear of debris and garbage and that type of thing, so that in the event of any heavy rainfall, we would not suffer the bad effects of flooding. But despite our best efforts, there was still a situation where the area was just flood prone, and we had to address it. And so when I approached Ambassador Diane Black-Lane, we agreed that this ought to be approached from the point of view of a climate change adaptation project. And that's how it started. It started out as a climate change adaptation project, and we began moving back in 2009, just as I was elected for my second term, and subsequently we were able to produce a booklet which was used as the basis for consultations in the area. And if you can see in this booklet, it's the flood alleviation project of Upper Fort Road and York's Waterway. And what it says is, climate change impacts to Upper Fort Road area are expected to include drought, intense rainfall leading to flooding, and increased risk for vector-borne diseases. Diseases like dengue caused by mosquitoes, other diseases caused by flies and so on, because of the stagnant water. So we identified those problems. And the solution is stated right here. The solution is to remedy the water flow by improving the waterway and to provide low-cost financing to individuals to prepare for climate change. So we actually had a program that envisaged that we are going to deal with the waterways, but at the same time, we are going to provide funding through low-cost loans to households. And that's going on right now. And again, when you listen to them, you would think that this is something that just started. Yes. But this booklet eventually was published in late 2010. It was published after we had two major flooding incidents. The first one in 2008, Hurricane Omar, and the second one on the 27th of June 2010, where there was a freak storm which resulted in flooding in the area. And so we started working to see how we would be able to correct this problem. And so we were able to build a partnership with the Department of the Environment, the government of Antigua generally through Public Works Department, the Central Board of Health, and the GEF. Now the GEF is the Global Environment Facility, and they had a special climate change fund under the Global Environment Facility, and also the United Nations Environment Program. So these are the agencies that were involved. The government through Public Works, CBH, the United Nations through the United Nations Environment Program, as well as the Global Environment Facility, who had a special fund called the Special Climate Change Fund. So we started working immediately to see how funds could be sourced using these various organizations. And we were able to identify, in going to the community and speaking with these international agencies, the presence of stagnant water, the frequent and severe flooding problems, the fact that the flooding was posing a threat to economic development, and also the question of stagnant water, which had to be addressed because of the mosquito infestation and mosquito problems that were being experienced. And so this program was designed, it says the Flood Alleviation and Cleanup Program, 2014 to 2016. And that's how we first designed it, to have this program that we would roll out between 2013, but we would get into it between 2014 and 2016. And this included all that we're seeing going on now, where the community would be addressed with regard to that problem of flooding. Now, the way the whole thing unfolded is one whereby we had, as I indicated, a few years before, Mr. Spencer had been in charge of the G77 and China International Committee, and he chose climate change to be his main issue for the year where he served as the chairman. Now, a consultant was hired during the period of 2011-2012, and going right up to 2014, he concluded the work that he was doing, having engaged in consultations so that the community would be aware of what was taking place. His name is Mr. Dirk Snyman, S-N-Y-M-A-N, Snyman. He was hired as a consultant. I remember him very well. He's from South Africa. He came to Antigua. He carried out the preliminary studies. He was the one who designed the special climate change project that we would have implemented in the Upper Fort Road area and the Yorks area. But in the course of designing that program, it was expanded to include Cashew Hill and to include West Palm Beach. And so we had a situation where these three areas were identified. And he did his consultations between 2013 and 2014. Having started the work slightly before that, he was able to come to the community between 2013 and 2014 whilst we were in office. And the project was submitted to the United Nations Environment Program for their endorsement, and that was done in 2014. Now, in 2015, the same United Nations Environment Program, they submitted the project document to the GEF, that's the Global Environment Facility. And the persons there, they did a review and they made certain recommendations, so the document had to be revised. Now, when the document was revised, it was then submitted and it was approved in June of 2016. And so the Global Environment Facility actually approved the Special Climate Change Fund project, which had been designed mainly through Mr. Dirk Snyman, the consultant who came to assist the Environment Department and work closely with me in making sure that we had something that was workable. Now, I have to say that some persons would say, and it has been said, that if the project started in 2012, and we started discussions even before that, way back since 2009, when we started really putting everything together, why did it take so long? The project document, as I said, was eventually submitted in its finalized form in it was submitted first in 2014, and then after the revisions, it was submitted in 2015, and the funds were approved in 2016. Now, I spoke with one of the persons who was very involved in this project, because obviously, having started it, I was very interested to see how the project was progressing, and so I kept in touch.
And this is while out of government.
This is while
out of government.
After we left government, I was very interested. I wanted to know if the new government was continuing and how things were progressing. And so when I heard that the funds had been approved, I inquired, why is it that it took so long? And I can tell you the response that came back. It says, and this was dated February 10th, 2017, when I made that inquiry. And it says, Dear Minister Lovell, no, I wasn't minister in 2017, but because I had worked with this person before as minister I suppose, you know,
Deference.
the person still referred to me as dear Minister Lovell. And she said, the issue you raise is a challenge that we face with global environment facility projects. Even though we submitted the project in 2014, the Special Climate Change Fund project only received endorsement from the CEO of the Global Environment Facility in July of 2016. We received the first funding disbursement from the United Nations Environment Program in December of 2016. This has caused a delay of 1.5 years, a 1.5-year delay in the project at the outset. She goes on to say, this delay is common with Global Environment Facility, with the Global Environment Facility, and one of the reasons we are so aggressively pursuing direct access accreditation to the Green Climate Fund and the Adaptation Fund. So those are two other funds, because there are several funds aimed at addressing climate change. And as you know, the Environment Division has been very aggressive in seeking direct access. I think they finally succeeded in getting that. But the whole point was having to go through all these different channels caused a lot of delays. And so that is why the person is saying to me, that is why we are so aggressively pursuing direct access accreditation to the Green Climate Fund and the Adaptation Fund. Now, that is how it unfolded. It started way back. Government is continuous. They were able, through the Special Climate Change Fund, to begin the work. And so what we know is that the Climate Change Adaptation Program from the Environment Division, which, as I indicated, had its genesis way back during our period of time. It includes 3 sites I mentioned: West Palm Beach, Cashew Hill, and McKinnon's. Now, it has 2 components that we were looking at as far as the Special Climate Change Fund is concerned. That's the first one, the Special Climate Change Fund. And that had the revolving fund for homeowners and small business people in those 3 communities. And we got for that, from the Special Climate Change Fund, US $1.6 million. And the other component of the Special Climate Change Fund project was improving the drainage along Friars Hill Road and the Upper Fort Road community, which came out of the Special Climate Change Fund. The other project with the Environment Division, which we were looking at, was the Adaptation Fund. Now, that was built out of the Special Climate Change Fund. That's the Adaptation Fund. And that now was addressing the other issues, the question of the drainage, doing more to do that, but it's continuous. It had already started, and they kept the work going, and also they got another $3 million for the revolving fund. The revolving fund idea, as I said, was from the very start when I showed you this leaflet, which was published in October of 2010. This was clearly the intention at the time. It's going now, but that's when it started, and I just want to emphasize that because it's just amazing how when you listen to these government people, and especially the current representative for St. John City East, he's beating himself on the chest, patting himself on the back, and telling everybody that he's the one who made it happen, when he knows nothing about how this thing started. The third area, of course, is the McKinnon's Pond area, and the third fund that they are looking at is the Green Climate Fund. And it was the same Mr. Dirk Snyder who was with us since 2012. He came back in 2016, and he was the one who developed he returned to Antigua, and he was the one who developed the Green Climate Fund, which was built out of the Special Climate Change Fund. And so that then gave rise to the Green Climate Fund. And that is where significant funds again are coming, because under the Green Climate Fund, they're looking to source, again, more money in order to get things done. So I believe it is important for us to understand, first of all, how the project started. It started because we recognized that there were several issues related to climate change that were having a significant impact on the Upper Fort Road community. These included mainly flooding, vector-borne diseases like, as I said, dengue and so on because of mosquitoes, because of the stagnant water. And also the need for us to provide funding for the persons who lived in these vulnerable persons who lived in these areas that were threatened as a result of these climate change events. That's how it worked. And then we got the Special Climate Change Fund going, and then the project was rolled out. We lost office. It continued, and we're happy to see the work continuing, but it is important that we set the record straight and that we understand that government is continuous. And for me, I have a special sense of anticipation as far as this is concerned, because this now gives a real true meaning to what we mean when we say government is continuous. Because having started it, and then the Labour Party having continued it, I'll be very happy to be there to finish it.
Very good.
So this is something that I am looking forward to. But we have to understand that this is not just about building bridges. This is about taking care of the community. And so the revolving fund is there to provide loans for people, but also we have to make sure that the whole issue of the stagnant water is dealt with. Because even as we speak now, there's so much stagnant water as the place is being dug up. And there are no plans, or there doesn't seem to be any basis on which they are looking to treat the water to address the question of the mosquitoes. Because I'm telling you, in the areas that are close to the waterway, where the bridges are being constructed, it has caused like ponds to develop where the water used to flow. And you know what happens when you have stagnant water. And so people who live, those of in the community who live next to these waterways and close to these waterways, or anything after 6 o'clock in the evenings, mosquitoes are a major problem. And I'm saying that once elected, that is one of the first issues that I would want to address. In light of the other works that are going on, we'd want to address the question of how we will make certain that the water is flowing. And so it's not just bridge building, because we also envisaged in the concept plan, not only building bridges, but also paving the waterway so that the water would be able to flow easily. And that is one area that I would want to continue, the area of the water flow and having a properly paved waterway so that we do not have the problems that we've had in the past.
Well, you have given quite a comprehensive overview of that project, which I think a lot of people did not know. And perhaps because of your in-depth knowledge, you were there from the conception. Now that you're seeing it being implemented, you can say what is anticipated or what was anticipated, and hopefully what the outcome would be. But have you had any first-hand look at it? You know, now that
yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
And what has
yes.
been your impression?
Well, I noticed, for example, there's a whole stack of steel that's already tied up. It's on the area known as Penny Lane. It is now covered with bush. It is completely rusty. And I really wonder, you know, how many thousands of dollars are we looking at there? And what went wrong? What happened? The other thing is that it was envisaged that in carrying out these works, that we would do it in a staged way, and so that you would not have this level of disruption. And so what seems to be happening is just to say something is being done. You just try to do everything all at once, so that the confusion and the inconvenience that has been caused is almost unpardonable. There doesn't seem to be a plan. Now I'm saying, what I would have expected would have been the completion of one at a time, or upon the the 90% completion of one at least, then you can begin moving on to another. But we now have about 4 bridges being constructed simultaneously, and in some cases you don't know whether it's coming or it's going. I spoke on the program of either last week or the week before about the junction of Palm Street and Walton Christian Drive, where that started almost a year ago, and it's still ongoing, and it's not clear exactly when it's going to be completed. And the same thing can be said for several of the other projects where we've seen the digging up, but we're not sure when the completion is going to take place. So if the election is called very soon, then I can tell you I'll be getting on top of this, and I will make sure that we address this issue in a very serious way. We will put up some signs with detours. We will make it a lot more convenient for people. We will publish a clear roadmap in terms of what it is we are hoping to achieve. We will give timelines, and we will say, this bridge, we expect it to be completed by such and such a time. This one, we expect to be completed by this time. And so we can give the community a very clear idea of what it is we're doing and where it is we're going. And timelines are going to be very important, because the frustration and the inconvenience is heightened and made even worse when you don't know. So the uncertainty makes these problems even worse. So I'm saying we will cure the uncertainty, give clear timelines, help persons who are visiting the community and who don't know the road network there with proper directional signs and signs that will indicate where the detours are, and at least put the project on a proper professional footing. And I, as representative, will definitely be very hands-on in making sure that we bring this project to a proper completion and we address all the other areas and issues that were originally intended when the project was first conceived.
Okay, very good. And I like what you said. Government is continuous, a good case study of continuity in government. It was started by you, now being implemented, and you look forward to take over, to see through to the completion. I like that. But we're going to take our first break, and then when we come back, we get to look at some other issues that have been in the news for this week. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
It's time to join the family at the People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. We offer savings accounts, deposits, fixed deposits, loans, among other related services. You can even become a shareholder by purchasing a minimum of 50 shares at $5 per share. Membership is super easy and convenient. Just visit our newly opened credit union building on Upper Newgate Street, Monday to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. with proof of ID and address, along with $15 to cover registration and passbook, and you'll be set and on your way. For further information, call 462-8888 or 727-2285. People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Today, tomorrow, together.
Calling all of the youth ages 15 through 35. While money isn't everything, everything needs money. Samuel Fields Consulting Group wants to help improve your money management. Check out our free virtual YOLO Summit on Sunday, June 5th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. featuring 25 youth speakers and a virtual exhibit hall with over 20 youthpreneurs. Live smart with the right financial tools. Register today at SamuelFieldsConsulting.com.
and welcome back to the Captain's Corner. Mr. Lovell, you dealt with your constituency, but there's some other issues that made the news this week. For one, we know that Parliament, the House of Representatives, had a meeting on Tuesday, and a number of things came out, particularly in questions to the Prime Minister. And in one of his explanations, the question was asked about the bond, the $200 million bond that was floated some time ago, and we were told that it was oversubscribed. And when asked this week, the Prime Minister said that they're in the process of withdrawing it because the person to whom, I guess, who had the interest seemingly is no longer interested, and they're now withdrawing. What's your take on that?
I just have to say, shake my head. You know, if this were a communication on social media, you just put SMH. You might have included an adjective, but you know, just SMH.
Yes.
Because they came to us in February, during the budget presentation. And he again was trumpeting and going on about this bond for $200 million and it being oversubscribed.
Yes.
Now, when you hear that a bond for $200 million US dollars, 540 million EC dollars is oversubscribed. Now, in the ordinary use of that term, it means that you have more people putting up more money than is actually required. So you're trying to raise 200 million, but you have so many people that you have more than you actually need. Now, for Antiguans, a lot of people felt, well, okay, this will be an opportunity to address some of the burning issues. And some people still took the Prime Minister at his word. Mr. Weston in Parliament, he actually said in mid-February that they would have the money here by the end of February. Again, he was boasting and going on that by the end of February, this money is going to be here. They raised the hopes of so many only to be dashed, where they said they were going to use money to pay off the Jolly Beach workers. They were going to use money to invest in Liat. They were already spending the money before they even had it. And I thought it was just a matter of time before the money would arrive. But now we're hearing that the person oversubscribed. Now, how do you have oversubscription with one investor only? So the whole thing is a comedy. They apparently had spoken to someone who promised that he would make available 200 million US dollars or 540 million EC dollars, and that it would be available for the government of Antigua and Barbuda to use. I think it was a bond over a 10-year period.
Yes.
The interest rate, I believe, was either 4.5 or 5%, thereabouts. And again, you know, they were speaking so confidently about this thing, and now they're saying they're withdrawing it. Withdrawing it? $540 million, 50% of your national budget,
Yep.
a significant part of your GDP. You're saying?
So what does that mean for the economy when we were expecting that to come in?
Well, I suppose everybody thought this was going to be a boost to the economy,
Economy?
because you're going to be pumping money into the economy. There were some concerns. I certainly had concerns with respect to the terms going forward, because with the interest rate over 10 years, I was able to show how much we'd be paying in interest. But what I think happened, this is what I think happened, that someone indicated to them that this is what they were thinking of doing. And the person then had to do some due diligence on the management of the economy of Antigua and Barbuda. Now, any serious investor who is going to put up 200 million US dollars or 540 million EC dollars, one of the first things they're going to do, they're going to read reports, because they want to know if this country will have the ability and the capacity to repay the borrowed money. They're going to go to some of the international institutions and look for the reports. Now, when they go to the IMF for an IMF report, because the IMF does an Article 4 consultation on every country,
Yes.
United States of America, Antigua, all countries. When they do that, they will realize that Antigua has failed to publish the IMF report for the last several years. So obviously that will raise red flags. I mean, why is the government of Antigua and Barbuda hiding from prospective investors and from its people the facts of the economy? Why is it that they want to put out their own version of events, but they do not want to put out a version based on an objective assessment by an international body? I believe that would have been one of the areas that they would have looked at.
Yes.
I believe also they would want to see what is your credit record. Are you paying your current debts? And they will realize that we are in a very, very bad way. The debts that we had negotiated with the Paris Club, whereby there were terms for the repayment, and these, by the way, were ALP debts, and I want that to be very clear. When we negotiated with the Paris Club, meaning Japan, Brazil, France, the Netherlands, UK, and the USA, those countries, we were able to get very favorable terms from them, and it was on the basis that Antigua was willing to become a nation that would honor its commitments. Because let's face it, we live in a world that what goes around comes around. If you're going to borrow from people and you don't pay back, which is what they did, and for us to get a good relationship back with Japan, for us to get a good relationship back with places like Brazil, where we could begin to improve our relationship with them, we had to address the question of outstanding loans going back in some cases over 20 years. Because let's face it, when we came into office, the loan stock was 3.2 billion, and of that, 1.8 billion was in arrears. And I want that, again, that to be very clear.
Repeat.
You see, I hear people talking about they came into government as the Labour Party, and they met arrears of 2 million and 5 million, and they're complaining. And they really had a shock. I heard Minister Nicholas saying, and when we came in, and we found this and we found that, my approach to them would be relaxed, take it easy. we have it under control. For them, of course, they're frightened,
yes,
because they've never had to manage anything before. So they were really frightened. But the point I'm making is this: when we came in, the debt stock was 3.2 billion, and arrears out of that was 1.8 billion. Yeah. So almost $2 billion in arrears, including all those countries that I've mentioned. So what would have happened now is that, having put those things on a proper footing in 2010, when we went to Paris and we negotiated terms for the repayment of those loans over a period of time,
yes,
this administration, they've stopped paying them. So they're no longer paying them. So when these people or this person is looking to see, what is the record? If I lend these people 200 million euros, can they pay me back? And then he starts to flick through and he realizes that since they have come in, they have failed to pay the debts that we promised to pay. I have no doubt that that person, because the information I have, I'm not like what Gaston Brown is telling the nation. What I have heard is that the person changed his mind. The person changed his mind because obviously he felt this was a big task and a big risk, and he wasn't prepared to take it with this administration. And so it's a comedy of errors. And it keeps on going on and on and on as far as this government is concerned. They do nothing right. Almost everything they do, it is plagued and marked by incompetence. And I use that word very clearly, very directly, and very deliberately. Incompetence. How else do you account for the fact that you come and boast to the country that you have a bond, which is a loan over a period of time, for $200 million US? You already say how you're going to spend it, how you're going to allocate it, this is what you're going to do, etc. And then it turns out that the person changed their mind.
But we did not know about it. If the question wasn't asked in Parliament, we would be in the dark up to now.
Well, that's the other thing. And then they're the ones who are talking about transparency and good governance. But if that question had not been asked. I think was it Honorable Trevor Walker?
Trevor Walker,
Right.
yes.
If Trevor Walker had not asked that question, we would never have known. We would have been in the dark. And look at the answer. I never would have expected that answer. That the person, after lying to the country and talking about oversubscribed, you now hear the person is no longer going forward and they're withdrawing. It's nothing but a comedy of incompetence.
You mentioned Jolly Beach because some of the funds we were told were to go to Jolly Beach to help pay the former Jolly Beach workers. We're also hearing this week that a local hotelier is seeking to take over Jolly Beach. Well, not take over, but to do some of the repairs and do some reopening, whatever the arrangement is. And but the PM is still telling us about this $15 million caution that is there. What is your take on all this whole Jolly Beach matter?
I can only use the word incompetence. Total incompetence. We heard about an investor who was going to invest $300 million US. They made that announcement in November of last year. By Christmas, they dropped it. Another bluff, another lie to the people of this country, another desperate lie as they try to hold on to power. So that $300 million, that went down the drain. Then we heard that someone was coming with $200 million. And then we heard nothing else about that. Now we're hearing about another investor who is supposed to be lending the government money and who is supposed to be taking over the hotel. But what I find astonishing is that they were out of the country. We heard Minister Weston say that they were trying to get a buyer for the Jolly Beach property. Now you were out there selling a property and you didn't take the time to go to the land registry, carry out a search to ascertain whether it was free and clear so that it can be sold. So you advertise for sale. You actually have people turn you down. And then you come back and say, oops, we now realize that there is a charge on the property and a caution and it can't be sold. I mean, please, anybody who did that in a law firm, a first year law training who came in, you probably tell them, this is not for you. Try something else. Try something else. That is so basic. You're selling a property. There's a charge on the property, a caution on the property.
And you didn't know.
It's there for the world to see. You do a search at the land registry and it's there. It's not a hidden, it's not a secret. Nobody sells land in Antigua before doing a search. First, you have to make sure that the person who said they're the owner, that they're the owner. You have to make sure that nobody has placed a charge or caution. In other words, it's not encumbered. And you mean to tell me that a whole government, they go out to sell a property, and after a year of advertising the property, telling people the property is there to sell, they come back and say, oh, we didn't notice there's a charge on the property and a caution on the property. Man, listen, incompetence is the only word. Incompetence. They are a bunch of jokers. They are a bunch of jokers. They are a bunch of jokers.
And in the meantime, the workers, the former workers, are left to carry the bag.
And the workers are left to carry the bag. So after lifting the hopes of the workers so high, they're now scrambling, trying to see who will lend them some money so that they can take shame out of their face. It's terrible.
I want to say in Parliament, because the Prime Minister was asked again, or was asked about the whole issue or saga of the fire trucks and fire trucks coming or not coming. And over the weekend, even before Parliament, we were told that he reportedly said that the one that was landed is only fit for cooks. Now, there seems to be some backpedaling to say that was not exactly what I meant to say when he said it.
Oh,
Another joke, you say?
Oh my. I mean, these people are not serious. No, this is a Prime Minister running a country. A country that has one single fire truck to go around the country. In the event of fire, people are at risk because you don't have adequate fire coverage. They said they're going to bring the fire truck in 2 weeks. They bring it after 2 months. Then he goes on the radio and he says that that fire truck is fit for cook's dump. A prime minister is saying that something that was purchased by his government is fit for cook's dump. Now, interestingly, this is again where the whole thing gets murky. So it's not just incompetent. They're not just running the country like jokers. Because now that he comes back and he says, oh, that's not what I meant. This was hyperbole. Yeah, I mean, listen, the only word that you can use in all fairness to describe that type of behavior is idiotic behavior. Only an idiot would behave that way. You're a prime minister. You go on the radio. You tell the people that your government bought a fire truck and the fire truck is fit for cook's dump. And then you come back a week later, a few days later, and you say, that's not what you meant. That was just hyperbole. You're an idiot. The only proper word to describe that type of behavior is the behavior of an idiot. Now, the other part now that makes this thing even more murky is that he told the Attorney General.
Yes.
So why did he tell the Attorney General? Well, I can say that he told the Attorney General, and it is for the Attorney General to come and say it is not so. But everybody, and it's an open secret in the cabinet of Antigua and Barbuda, that a senior government minister sourced that fire truck. So you now have these people not only incompetent, not only doing foolishness and creating a comedy of errors, but they are now actually supplying the very government that they're sworn to serve without fear or favor with equipment like fire trucks. So why would a senior government official, a senior government minister, be supplying a fire truck to the government?
What competence does that minister have in sourcing a fire truck?
What competence would he have in sourcing?
Well, I said, okay.
And did the government get value for money? No, the prime minister, first he says that it fits for cook's dump, which means it's not fit for purpose. Now he says they're getting value for money. So what is the country to believe? And he needs to explain why it is that he addressed those comments to the Attorney General. And is it a fact that the Attorney General is the person who supplied the fire truck to the government? That's a question they need to answer. Is it a fact that the Attorney General is the person who sourced that fire truck and brought it to Antigua for the government? And did he do it at a profit, or did he do it for free?
And what does that mean to the taxpayers of this country if, in fact, we are not getting value for money?
It means that we are being raped. It means that the country is being taken advantage of. We're being hoodwinked. We've been had. We've been took. That's what it means. It means that we've been really taken around the ring around the roses. We've been taken merry around the bush. It's just so disheartening as a citizen to watch this government and the foolish things that they do.
And I want to come, when we're due a break, but when we come back, I want you to put it in the context of the frustration that people are feeling now. This issue that government finances, yes, and then we are forced in a situation where something as simple as commodity as water, that life and livelihood in Antigua has changed as a result. We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we continue the discussion. Don't go anywhere. Call a friend, call your families, let them get on, and we'll be right back after the break.
ages 15 through 35. While money isn't everything, everything needs money. Samuel Fields Consulting Group wants to help improve your money management. Check out our free virtual YOLO Summit on Sunday, June 5th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. featuring 25 youth speakers and a virtual exhibit hall with over 20 youthpreneurs. Live smart with the right financial tools. Register today at samuelfieldsconsulting.com.
Come back. The discussion is getting heated. I can feel it. But I just want to remind our listeners, viewers, if you have any questions, remember, if you have questions, you can send them to us. You can send it on the live, and we'll be sure to read your questions and comments as directed to the captain for others to hear. When we were going to the break, the whole issue of water it's a recurring decimal, and more you're hearing people saying that life in Antigua is different. It's difficult now living because as a commodity as important and is essential, it just changes everything.
Again, what word can you use other than incompetence? There's no excuse for that.
Yeah.
I mean, and I say it every time because I want it to be a matter that we understand clearly. This is not about drought.
Yeah.
This is about incompetent management. We're getting 95% of our water from the sea, and the plants that we have are not producing at the capacity to give people water. So wherever you go in Antigua, people are complaining about the lack of water. Now, this issue as far as the water distribution is concerned, a critical part of any water distribution network is storage. And I've been watching to see if it's pride that is preventing this government from hooking up the water tanks in Buckley's and in Liberto, in the Patterson's area. Because those two tanks can make a major difference. You see, people who work in water will tell you that it's very important, and the way the water system was designed in Antigua. You have what are known as the transmission lines, and the transmission lines are the lines, the pipes that's going to take you from the source of the water, whether it's the seawater, whether it is water from Potworks Dam or wherever it's coming from. The transmission line takes it to the storage, like the storage tank. And you have the tanks there empty. And then the distribution lines, they will take the water to the consumer. What has been happening, and I was very surprised when someone explained that this is actually happening, that in many cases they're no longer using the transmission line and the distribution line. They're just using one line. Now, when you just have one line, if there's a problem on the line, you're going to have to lock off the water, because the water is coming and going on that one line. Now, that creates a major problem in terms of disruption of the water supply, because when you have all these leaks and you have these problems developing along the line, then the water has to be cut off completely. Now, when you use the storage tanks, on the other hand, the water can be taken up to the tank, and even if you have to close off a portion of the line, you still have the water coming from the tank that can be fed down into the communities. That is an area that has to be addressed, because it is not good enough to be constantly telling people that you're going to have water shortage today, tomorrow, next week. I mean, in Buckley's, it's really been a problem. The last 2 days, no water. There was water earlier in the week. I'm hoping that water will come on tomorrow or Saturday or something. But it is extremely inconvenient for everybody. And then in the St. John City East constituency, which is one of the hardest hit constituencies as far as water is concerned. People complain every day. There's some places, like in Dickinson Bay Street, Gambles, where we get water up to a certain point and then no water for the rest of the day. But there are other areas, Bishopgate Street, Agatha Goodwin Street, that whole area. Sometimes it's 6 and 7 days, a week will pass, and there's no water, not a drop. A friend of mine, he has to go to his mother's place every morning with his bungle, take his Georgie bungle, and he's down by his mother in order to get a shower, in order to brush his teeth, to do basic things. And the government has had 8 years to fix it.
Yeah.
And we must not just allow that to pass. They've had 8 years to fix it. The drought came in somewhere around 2011, 2012. And we had already taken steps with the construction of the water tanks that I mentioned.
For storage.
For storage in Collins, in St. Philip, in Buckley's, in Patterson. We fixed the Grace Farm Reservoir with the assistance from the Chinese, so that we were making sure that we had adequate storage. Because it's no point just buying reverse osmosis plants and just pumping water. You need to store and distribute. And we need to get back to that way of doing things. And I know that if the technical people at APUA are allowed to do their job, they will get it right. But there's so much political interference. You heard me say even the way they were putting in the membranes and things like that. They were in such a rush to just say, look, just do something.
Get it done.
Whatever you do, get it done. So when the engineers will be telling them, that can't be done before this, that's putting the cart in front of the horse. Don't bother with that. Just put it in. Just put it in. Just put in the membrane. Don't matter if you have to put in the filters, which I spoke about. Don't worry that. Just do what you have to do. Wasting money. So the whole water issue is one whereby there's a solution. There's a solution whereby we need to have a very clear plan as to the time frame in which we can realistically address this problem. One of the main components of the solution will be the issue of storage. Getting those storage tanks that were built by the United Progressive Party government, get them up and running, get them in service so that we can distribute water to people. So that this issue will no longer be an issue where you have to rely only on the amount of water that is being produced by the reverse osmosis plants at any one time. We will be able to distribute water based on water that is stored, that can be distributed by gravity feeding the water down to the community. This is one of the key areas that we have to deal with in order to make sure that our people can get water.
Someone on the Facebook Live is making a suggestion or asking the question, how possible is it to clean Potworks Dam and run water lines from the RO plants to fill the dam? I don't know if that's something you can answer.
I've heard that suggestion, and I'm one generally very careful about making those sorts of technical and engineering proposals. I'm not an engineer, and the method that we would employ in order to fix this problem would be to bring the people who know to the table. We have good qualified technical people at APUA who we will bring to the table, and we will listen to them. There are Antiguans and Barbudans who live overseas but who have the technical capacity. We would invite them to be part of that discussion. There are even Antiguans I know who live here now, who've been around for a while. You take a person like Pat Martin. Pat Martin probably knows where every water pipe in Antigua is located. This is an engineer who was responsible for the water system in Antigua for many, many years. He knows the system inside out. People like Pat Martin and others, I'm just calling his name because he's not retired, but his brain is not dead. And so we have to bring those people who really can add to the discussion in a very fundamental way. And the job of the government is to facilitate that discussion. The job of the politician is not for me to say, we should do potworks dam in this particular way. And for all. And everything will depend on using a method, and that method will be bringing our people together, getting the experts to really get to grips with every aspect of this problem. The sourcing of the water, the storage of the water, the distribution of the water. All of those areas must be addressed, and we will get the people who have the answers to give us in detail how it will be done. We will facilitate it, and of course, whilst we will approach the idea with an open mind, we would not approach it with an empty mind. So we will be able to add our suggestions. We have a pretty good idea of what we want to do, but we will listen to the experts, who are the people who really know how to do this.
Okay. Before we get to some of the other questions that are coming in on the live, last week, one of the matters on the national agenda was the whole issue of the disposal of the e-books. The Ministry of Education came out very soon after, with an explanation via a press release. And the Minister of Education this week in Parliament sought also to give an explanation. Let me hear what you have to say concerning this whole e-book saga, the disposal, the matter in which it tends, or they tend to want to make it secret, in terms of, not, the public should not have a right to know in terms of what exactly has happened and is happening.
Again, it seems as though the word of the day is incompetence.
Yeah.
Incompetence and corruption. From day one, this e-book issue has been mired in scandal and confusion. First of all, we didn't even know anything about the contract. We didn't know how much it was going to be. We had no idea until the whole matter burst into the public domain sometime in 2019. I think it was early in 2019.
Yes.
And when we heard that, we were told that the cabinet was not even aware that they would have to pay user fees. Again, you ask yourself, you're running a country and you're facilitating perhaps your main project. This was your flagship project. You're going to bring digital learning to the young people of Antigua and Barbuda. That's great. Everybody likes to hear that. So everybody's listening to hear, how are you going to bring this digital learning to the students in the schools here in Antigua and Barbuda? And the first real piece of news that you hear is there's a bust up. The Prime Minister is saying heads are going to roll. The government is not paying all that money. You have, and I have these stories here. On one occasion, the Director of Education, he says he's sorry over leaked e-books comment. And this was a story on the 4th of February 2019 that appeared in the Observer. Because if you remember, the Director of Education, he wasn't very happy when he heard the Prime Minister say that the Cabinet did not know.
Yes.
And somebody taped him in a meeting where he was very forthright, and he said, they know. They well know. He said, not only do they know, but when we told them, it was actually $300 US per device, per student. And it's all here. It's reported. And then the Prime Minister came back, and he was saying that, no, they didn't know, and they would never agree to that, and they're going to reduce. And this is what the Prime Minister said. The Prime Minister said, the truth is, we were not aware. It was never really brought to our attention.
Never really.
You see, never really brought to our attention. Again, you say, you have a cabinet. This is a major program. This is the Minister of Finance. And this is supposed to be a project, obviously, that's pretty pricey, running over a period of time. And nobody seeks to ask the question, will there be user fees? Where in the world are you going to get a computer program, software to be used, and you're not required to pay user fees? That's like basic. You have a Minister of Telecommunications sitting there. Nobody's thought of asking, will there be user fees? Anyway, the Prime Minister goes on to say no. He said, it was never really brought to our attention. What was spoken to when the presentation was made was the $5 million to purchase the e-books, not knowing that there was a user fee. You see, ridiculous, dunceness. Not knowing that there was a user fee. How can you not know that? That would have resulted in an additional liability of almost $10 million annually, which clearly was beyond the means of the central government and the Board of Education, he said. Now this is important, because here you have the Prime Minister in 2019. He is saying that this agreement that they have entered into would have resulted in almost $10 million annually. $10 million he's talking about. Now, he doesn't say whether it's US or EC, but he speaks of the licensing fee as 250 US. Then he speaks of $10 million. So we're not clear if it's EC or if it's US. But whether it's EC or US, $10 million per year over a 5-year period, that's a minimum of $50 million. Those are the Prime Minister's words. That's at least 50. And we haven't spoken about the cost of the devices yet. Now, they're now telling us that the entire thing cost $21 million. So when the Prime Minister said $10 million per year, in 2 years, that's $20 million.
Yes.
So from 2016 until now, how can it be $21 million? I am just saying, they need to come clear.
Yeah.
If it's 21 million, why did the Prime Minister use the figure of $10 million a year? Why did he do that? Is it that he didn't know? Is it that it was deliberately stated to cast a bad light or to exaggerate? Was he trying to throw his minister under the bus? Was he doing something that was devious? Why did he say $10 million a year? So we have a major problem with transparency.
And I would want to suggest that there are more questions than answers. For example, local teachers were paid to put content on these electronic devices. And by the way, I was just handed this. And this is one of, I'm told, is a fully functional ebook that was retrieved from, sanitized, retrieved from Cooks.
Right. A, B, C, D, E.
Yes. It's an acronym for whatever, yes. Yes.
This was taken from Cooks.
Retrieved from Cooks.
Last time we spoke about the 200 memory
cards, yes.
With a total value of something like $20,000. Now this, it even saying the right time.
Yes, yes.
And this was taken from the dump. My goodness me, they went and buried them, no? Because I'm wondering if I can go down this.
They're buried. And access is now denied. We're told.
Access is now denied. But this raises the other point in terms of disposal.
Yeah.
No,
even before you go to disposal, and I'm going to remind you to go back there, the whole question of content. What now happens to the content that was placed on these electronic devices? Does it mean that they are no longer being used?
I just feel like people not understand me. I don't want to even give me a chance. Go to school, my hard skill. I'm a hard worker, but there's just not enough jobs out there. The economy is so bad that I'm ashamed to say that we're in the year 2022 and water hardly one near the pipe. Now them can't tell how we, in order to get a job, I must take the job. I understand the vaccine is a good thing and all that, but I just hate the fact that it's mandated. It's my body, it's my choice. I shouldn't be denied a job, education or benefits because the choices I make for my body. For me, this time, personally, the UPP is the right choice because they are the party of choice.
It's time to join the family at the People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. We offer savings accounts, deposits, fixed deposits, loans, among other related services. You can even become a shareholder by purchasing a minimum of 50 shares at $5 per share. Membership is super easy and convenient. Just visit our newly opened credit union building on Upper Newgate Street, Monday to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. with proof of ID and address, along with
And we say welcome back to the final segment. And as promised, we did ask for questions, and some questions have come in on the live. And the first one I want to put to you, how would you, and I believe that is the UPP, address the pensioners' problem, not getting their social security on a regular basis? Can you promise them that things will be better when you take the government? And before you answer, someone else commented, under the UPP Baldwin Spencer administration, I take it, pensioners were receiving their pension every last Monday of the month. And that's a fact.
The issue of pensioners cannot be postponed. We have said that that is a priority for a new UPP administration, and it has to be. If you really care about people, you must care about the very young, the very old, and those who are disabled or unable to do certain things for themselves. Those are the ones who you must be most concerned about. The able-bodied must always stand back in favor of those who have served the country, earning a pension and trying to live a decent life. Now, when somebody is living on a pension, they're depending on that money to buy medicine, they depend on the money to buy basic necessities. And it is just not good enough for the government for the last several years to simply be saying, we can't do any better. Of course you can do better. You have to find a way to do better. Now, the water problem, we know that it has been around, and all of a sudden they found $1.4 million to invest in some parts that were needed for the reverse osmosis plants. What happened before that? Now let us remember that before the UPP was elected in 2004, pensions were as low as $79. We created minimum pensions, whereby pensioners could look forward to a minimum of $800 a month. In some cases less than $100. We did that. We introduced social programs. We did that. We looked after people. We made sure people were taken care of. We did it. They have come in and they have treated the pensioners with total disrespect. And so we have a situation now where month after month after month, pensioners have to go home without their check having to wait 4 or 5 weeks. Now, one of the things I hear they're planning to do, they're planning to pay the May pension in some cases where April has not been paid. And then they're planning to pay June pension even when May pensions have not been paid. They're trying to hoodwink people to say, we paid the pensions for May, but they're going to leave out the fact that they have
owing
not,
for the month before.
Owing for the one before. And similarly, to pay the current month, as they would say, to make it seem as though all is normal when all is not normal. So we're looking out for that. But we want to invite and to remind persons that on Tuesday, the 7th of June, there's going to be a picket organized by the United Progressive Party outside the Social Security office. And the picket will be mounted and carried in support of the elders of Antigua and Barbuda, the senior citizens. And we're saying that senior citizens' lives matter. We're saying this is total disrespect to the senior citizens of this country. And one of the things that we promise, once elected, there will be a total change in the way that we respect people. The language that we will use, the tone that we will use, our aim will be to pull this country together using language that shows respect for people. The language, the coarse language, the language that is used by Gaston Brown to everyone, the Barbudans, people who disagree with him, everybody. The language that he uses is unfit for the office of Prime Minister. He needs to bring himself to the point where he shows some respect for people. And we promise the senior citizens of this country that we understand that senior citizens' lives matter. And we will show the type of respect by bringing all the payments up to date. And I'm very serious about this. As I've said, whatever has to be done, I mean, we will obviously take a stock of where the finances are, but it cannot be postponed. It must be addressed as a matter of urgency. We cannot allow this problem to continue any longer. And I'm saying that a UPP government, once elected, we will get to work and immediately address this problem. And the money that is in this country will be prioritized. And one of the main areas of priority will be making sure that pensioners can get paid on time by pumping the necessary funds into Social Security so that the pensioners will be able to say at the end of every month they can get their pension check. That's a promise.
We are over time, but there is one question that I wanted to put on the table that came in very early on the live. And if you could answer quickly, and we can elaborate next week, what plans do you have to improve and beautify St. John's? In a quick, short answer.
We have a great plan. We're going to roll it out with our manifesto. But that too is going to be a wonderful program that will be rolled out. It will be inclusive. It's one that will be engaging. We're going to mobilize this nation around the question of a beautiful Antigua and Barbuda. Taking pride in our country, bringing the communities back, getting the villages tidied up, getting St. John's completely brought up to speed in terms of how it
aesthetics.
Is, the aesthetics, how it's presented, not only to visitors, but more so to the people who live here. We need to have pride in our country. And the government must lead the way insofar as the question of pride is concerned. It all comes down to that. So the issue of litter, we address that, but you have to start at the foundation, building pride in the nation. We will deal with the other issues by incentivizing business people to spruce up their business places, to get things done, by throwing out the necessary incentives so that they will be able to do so, but they will be able to do so at a cost that would not be the same had we not offered the incentive.
Okay, thanks. We're wrapping up now, but I know you wanted to touch on the whole aspect of electoral preparedness and in terms of the ongoing registration and persons who have registered to pick up their cards. So I'm going to give you that opportunity, but you're going to do it in the context of your conclusion for this evening, because we're way over time.
To everyone who has registered and who has not yet picked up their registration cards, there are over 1,000 cards at the Electoral Commission's office. And we are encouraging all those persons who've registered, go and pick up your card. That's your weapon. You can't vote if you don't have your card. So make sure you go and pick up your card. That's your weapon. And secondly, those who have not yet registered, I want to encourage everyone who has not yet registered to go and register. If you notice, this government hasn't really launched any registration drive-in because they know anybody who's going to go and register. They're registering to vote them out. And we're encouraging people, go and register because we're going to vote out the Red Devils. We're going to vote them out. And we're going to create a new Antigua and Barbuda. We're going to transform this country. We're going to bring the country together. And we're going to make sure that we look out for our people and build a better, a brighter Antigua with Antigua and Barbuda. And just remember, the United Progressive Party, we are the right choice.
Harold Lovell, thank you so very much. Another exciting week, another exciting program has come to an end. And as usual, it's always a pleasure doing this with you. We want to say thank you as well to our many listeners, viewers, those of you who participated, and there was a live discussion going on the Facebook Live. And we want to say thank you so very much for engaging with us and look forward to us coming again your way next week as we continue with more on Captain's Corner. On behalf of Harold Lovell, Shawn Nicholas saying good night.
I just feel like people not understand me. I don't want even give me a chance. Go school, I'm a hard skill. I'm a hard worker, but there's just not enough jobs out there. The economy is so bad that I'm ashamed to say that we're in the year 2022 and water hardly one near the pipe. Now them can't tell how we, in order to get a job, I must take the job. I understand the vaccine is a good thing and all that, but I just hate the fact that it's mandated. It's my body, it's my choice. I shouldn't be denied a job, education, or benefits because the choices I make for my body. For me, this time, personally, the UPP is the right choice because they are the party of choice.